Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Welcome back. President Donald Trump posting just minutes ago on his various social media platforms. The president said, and I quote, "Nobody is getting off the hook for the unfair trade balances and non-monetary tariff barriers that other countries have used against us, especially not China, which by far treats us the worst." Here to discuss this with us is a veteran journalist, Gordon Chang. Gordon has lived and worked in Shanghai and Hong Kong for almost 2 decades. He's a columnist at Newsweek, a regular contributor at The Hill. He also writes for Newsmax. His writings have appeared in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the National Review, Barron's, and elsewhere. He is the author of several books. I loved his first book, China's Going to War, The Great U.S.-China Tech War. But his most recent book, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, also available on Amazon. I must say, Gordon, last time you were on the show was one of the most popular shows we've ever had. We're honored to have you back. Welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Well, I'm honored to be talking to you, Roger, so thank you.
So let me read a little bit more of the president's post here. He goes on to say there's no tariff exception announced on Friday. These projects are subject to existing 20% fentanyl tariffs, and they are just moving to a different tariff bucket. The fake news knows this, but refuses to report it. We are taking a look at semiconductors and the whole electronics supply chain in the upcoming national security tariff investigations. What has been exposed, the president says, is that we need to make products in the United States, and we will not be held hostage by other countries, especially hostile trading nations like China, which will do everything within its power to respect and destroy the American people. We will not and cannot let this continued abuse on trade that has been going on for decades continue, because those days are over. Gordon, your thoughts on the fact that China has now increased their tariffs in response to President Trump's tariffs, and their stock market took a major plunge. What will the Chinese do? Will they back down and remove their tariffs? Will they make a deal with the greatest deal maker in American business and political history?
I wish I knew, Roger, but I would guess that the Chinese are going to hold out for a very, very long time. And the reason is that Xi Jinping has configured the Chinese political system so that only the most hostile answers are considered to be acceptable. So it's very difficult for China to pick up the phone and call President Trump, which is the economically rational thing for China to do. Because you've got to remember that they're the smaller economy. The Chinese economy is less than 2/3 the size of ours, and China is the trade surplus country. Last year, their merchandise trade surplus against us was $295.4 billion. That was up 5.8% from 2023. Trade surplus countries don't have any ammunition in trade wars. So the objective factors show basically that the Chinese can't win. But Xi Jinping can win on a non-objective factor, and that is if he is able to convince the American public, businesses, Wall Street, farmers, you name it, if they can convince Trump to back down. Now, I don't think Trump is in any mood to back down, so we should win this fight. But the Chinese are going to fight like tooth and nail, and they're going to get their allies in the U.S. to help them.
Yeah, if they think that Donald Trump is going to back down, they don't know him. He is the immovable object. Right now, I think Chairman Xi is someplace huddled with a copy of The Art of the Deal, trying to figure out what he's up against. You have said, and I think you're right, that China has run out of ammo. There are no bullets in their six-shooter, and the president knows it, and therefore their negotiating position is weak. But as you know, in their culture, saving face is vitally important. The president's tariffs are designed in part to reinvigorate manufacturing in America. How do you see American manufacturing developing over the next 4 years based on these policies?
Couple things. First of all, Trump has been extraordinarily successful in getting foreign companies to announce investment into the U.S. The most important one was TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, which announced $100 billion on top of the $65 billion already invested here. That additional $100 billion is for 5 more fabs in North Phoenix. The question is, do we have the workers for such new facilities? So we're going to need, I think, basically something like President Eisenhower's National Defense Education Act of 1958. We're going to have to train up American workers. That's important. On the other hand, I think that because of the reduction in tax rates and some other things that Trump has been working on, that's going to encourage U.S. companies to manufacture here. And it's going to encourage a lot of people to start businesses and to make things in our country. So I see a relatively bright future for us. We've got to worry about what the Chinese are going to do, but nonetheless, we're Americans. This is our country. We're going to do it.
It is amazing to me that somehow, under both Republican and Democrat presidents, we have allowed ourselves to become reliant on our most important pharmaceuticals, particularly antibiotics, but also many other important drugs, which are now almost virtually completely produced in China. Who, Republican or Democrat, could have possibly thought that that was either a good idea or not a national security question?
Yeah, and we have to remember, even today, there are Republicans and Democrats who are working against our interests. The Democrats, of course, because they just abhor Trump, and some of them actually hate him. So they are against everything that he's trying to do to protect us. And then you got some conservative free market Republicans who don't care about our national security, who think that we're at peace. Well, the Chinese don't think they're at peace because you can hear it from their rhetoric and you can see what they're doing. So we've got problems on both sides of the aisle, Roger. And what we have to do right now is to make pharmaceuticals in America. President Trump, at the end of his first term, tried to do that with a $750 million loan to Eastman Kodak to make active pharmaceutical ingredients. The plan was flawed. It didn't work, and Trump didn't get reelected. Now, if Trump had gotten reelected in 2020, then very well he could have continued that initiative. And I hope that he starts it again, because we need to make our pharmaceuticals on American soil.
It is also interesting to me that one of the great blunders of the Biden foreign policy was driving the Chinese and the Russians, who are not natural allies, who have a long, long common border and centuries of distrust between the two nations. People assume they're both communists or they're both authoritarians, so therefore they're natural allies. That, of course, is not the case. President Richard Nixon understood this. This was the great success that he had. We only got a strategic arms limitation agreement with the Russians because Richard Nixon recognized that opening the door to China, which was then a backwards, dirt-poor agrarian society with very little technology, very little indoor plumbing. Rural areas had no electricity. This was 30 years before Bill Clinton gave them most favored trading status, which is what made them an economic superpower, and he sold them our military secrets in the Loral scandal, our missile targeting technology, in return for illegal campaign contributions. Donald Trump's foreign policy clearly designed to drive the Russians and the Chinese, neither of whom are our friends, let's be clear, but to drive them apart. And I think he will be successful. When we come back, I'm going to talk more to Gordon Chang about what the future holds when it comes to U.S.-Chinese relations. We'll be right back.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by GM Genuine Parts and AC Delco. Get the most out of your vehicle with GM Genuine Parts and AC Delco original equipment. The only parts designed, engineered, tested, and backed by General Motors. You can find your perfect fit for most makes and models and choose from 3 tiers of parts, including GM OE or gold and silver aftermarket parts. Visit gmparts.com for more information.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for an Oikos remix. Like a crunchy storm of sea salt praline pretzels, dark chocolate, and butter toffee, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Oikos remix varieties with epic mix-ins and 11 grams of complete protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
Summer's heating up, but the savings are cooling off. It's your last chance to shop Blinds.com's Memorial Day mega deals. Blinds.com invented a better way to shop for window treatments, completely online with upfront pricing, no showroom markups, no salespeople in your home. Choose from classic shutters to outdoor shades and more, all backed by our 100% satisfaction guarantee. It's your last chance to shop Blinds.com's Memorial Day mega deals. Save up to 50% with minimum purchase, plus a free measure. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And we're back in the Roger Stone Show. All right, I just wanted to let you know that before the end of the show, as promised, I'm going to reveal my family recipe for veal parmesan, as I have promised. So get out your pen and paper. At the end of the show, we're going to have that recipe. But in the meantime, we are back with Gordon Chang, veteran journalist. Gordon's latest book, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Gordon has a very, very lively page on X, formerly known as Twitter. Gordon, where can people follow you on X?
At GordonGchang, Gordon G. Chang.
Folks, don't miss it. He's got very lively commentary there. We are talking about this epic struggle with the communist Chinese. I had a lot of people who panicked last week. Oh, look at the stock market. Oh, here's what I know. I went to the grocery store 2 days ago to get a dozen eggs. Last time I did that, Joe Biden was president. They were $8.90 a dozen. I paid $5.40. Fuel prices are down. Interest rates are down. I think America's on its way back. I think the president's tariff, I don't want to call it strategy, is working. The Chinese may not fold as easily as the Mexicans have already folded, as well as many others. I think the Canadians are on their way to folding. This has a lot to do with the Chinese mindset. Now, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said after a call with the Chinese Premier Li Qiang that the EU and China should work together to reach a, quote, negotiated resolution, close quote, for the global economy in the face of this U.S. tariff threat by Trump. To what extent are the EU and the Chinese now working together, Gordon, against America and President Trump?
Well, the EU is also talking to the United States, and they're in active discussions right now. You know, the EU Commission, they can talk about all sorts of hoped-for discussions with Beijing, but they've been talking to Beijing for decades, and things have only gotten worse between Europe and China. I don't think we're going to see a big deal between Brussels and Beijing. It's just not in the cards, Roger. If they come up with some arrangement, it's probably going to fall apart fast. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think that President Trump will stitch up a deal with Brussels a lot sooner than Beijing will.
It's interesting. I keep seeing the president's critics keep saying that these tariffs are inflationary, yet there's deflation in China, and they are one of the most aggressive advocates for tariffs. What is the current state of the Chinese economy in reality?
Yeah, you talk about deflation. We saw the price numbers for March. Both consumer prices and producer prices were down. consumer prices down for 2 straight months, producer prices down for 30 straight months. I don't think China is growing at the 5.0% pace that they reported for last year. I think that it's about zero. And if it's not contracting now, it will soon be, because all the signals, or most of the signals, point to a really bad future for China. This comes at a really important time because not only is the Chinese economy crumbling, you got the property market in collapse, China's facing a debt crisis, and here then comes President Trump with his tariffs. It's hitting China all at the same time.
Yeah, it is very interesting. You know, President Richard Nixon had something called the madman theory, where he would have Henry Kissinger go meet the North Vietnamese and say, look, I'm a reasonable guy, but Nixon, you know, this guy could push the button. He could annihilate you. It was the unpredictability, and, of course, they used it to end the Vietnam War. I think this works very well with the Chinese in relation to Taiwan. Little doubt in my mind that the Chinese leaders understood that if they took Taiwan, under Joe Biden, what they would have gotten was a strong letter of condemnation from the Biden State Department, but little else. Yet they look at Donald Trump and they see that he's completely and totally unpredictable. I don't think they dare make this move, but I'm more interested in what you think.
Yeah, I agree with you for 2 reasons. First of all, I don't think that the Chinese military is ready to invade Taiwan. Although they've got really good weapons, and some of them are better than ours, the Chinese military leaders are now purging each other, and it's complete turmoil at the top of the People's Liberation Army. And I don't think Xi Jinping trusts his military. That's not to say that China won't end up in a war with Taiwan, but I don't think they're going to launch hostilities with an invasion of the main island. What could happen is Xi Jinping is involved in a lot of provocations, not only against Taiwan, but also South Korea, Japan, Philippines, Australia. This is the last 2 weeks, Roger. They're lashing out, and I think something could go horribly wrong. And one of those incidents could spiral out of control. Xi Jinping is in no mood to have a reasonable response to the international community. This is where things can go really bad. I do believe that Xi Jinping is afraid of Donald Trump. I don't think he wants to take on the United States. But Xi Jinping right now is in a very difficult position. And so we have to be prepared for anything.
I could not agree more. One of the largest problems I see is the acquisition of prime ranch land, farmland, and other strategic property, real estate, right here in the United States. And Governor Ron DeSantis announced that he was going to bar the Chinese from purchasing land in Florida. But then when you look at the fine points of his law, he only barred them from buying land if it was contiguous to a, quote, national security facility, whatever that means. That's an ill-defined term. With about a minute and a half, little less to go, how big a problem is this? And then tell us yet again where folks can find you on X.
Yeah. We just need to stop Chinese purchases altogether. We need to take land away from the Chinese. Issue of reciprocity, if nothing else. We can't buy a square inch in China. The Chinese shouldn't be able to buy a square inch here. And besides, they're using it for espionage, human trafficking operations, illegal marijuana grows. I think they're trying to plant invasive species here. Enough is enough, Roger. Anyway, they can find me on X at Gordon G. Chang. I tweet about this stuff all the time because it's really getting serious, Roger.
All right. Gordon Chang, the great Gordon Chang. Thanks for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Well, thank you, Roger. I really appreciate it.